Hey everyone, it's Allie and welcome to my channel. And as you saw from the thumbnail and the title, you know I am doing a huge book unhaul. Alright you guys, so yes, today I am getting rid of a lot of books. I spent just a little bit of time honestly going through my bookshelves, both my bookshelf of all the books that I've read, as well as the ones on my TBR shelf. And I pulled out, if I counted correctly, 46 books that I am going to give away. So if you've been around for a while, you know I do really enjoy buying books. I get most of my books from Book Outlet or thrift stores, half-price books, places like that. I very, very rarely buy from like Barnes & Noble or other bookstores or brand new books. I really try to wait until I can get a book on sale. I also really enjoy just kind of getting a book based on the cover, the genre, the little blurbs. And I found some of my favorite books that way, but I've also found just a lot of books that even if I enjoyed reading them, I don't really want to hang on to them forever. So this month of December, I do have a lot of family coming in. My sister's a big reader, my mom also is a big reader, as well as my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law. So I pulled out all these books in hopes that most of them will be taken by all these different people in my family, or if friends come over, I'll be like, just, you know, go through this bin and please take anything that you want. And then at the end of this month, at the end of the holiday season, if there's items that I think I can make a little bit of money from half-price books, I probably will take them there and then I will just donate whatever they don't take. I do really enjoy owning books. I have quite a lot of books. I plan to have a very epic library one day, but I do want all the books that I keep to be books that I either know I'm gonna reread or they were 5-star reads, so I probably will reread them because of that. And I know from when I was pulling these books out that some of them I rated 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed them, but I just know myself and I know that maybe they were just a one-time read or I just didn't like them quite enough to want to keep for basically forever. So with all that being said, here is this big bin of books. I am going to show you all the books, but of course we're not going to have any kind of in-depth conversation about any of these. But my favorite genres of books pretty much are historical fiction, thrillers. I don't read a ton of contemporary fiction, but some of those books end up being very good 5-star reads for me. You're gonna see more just kind of like general fiction in here, as well as a lot of romances. And some of these books I actually never read. As I said, I did go through my TBR shelf, so I will talk about why I don't really want to read them anymore. So first up, let's actually go through the vast majority of the books that I did not read, because these were all from my sister, all 5 of these. I was just borrowing them from her. And it's funny because we're both English people, but we're English people in different ways. She just completed her college degree to teach high school English, and she really wants to teach like the AP classes. And I always really loved English class when I was in school. That's definitely where my personal skills are. I definitely have more of an artsy than a scientific brain, but I never really enjoyed like analyzing the classics, things like that. I always enjoyed more of the creative writing aspect of English. But Steph, on the other hand, she really does enjoy the classics. And so she did give me these books that she did read throughout undergrad. And I just know I'm not really gonna reach for these anytime soon. Actually, this one might not have been one that she gave me, but it's a very depressing story. This is The Cider House Rules. I do really like the movie. It's a great movie, but it's a very depressing story. But let me know if you're a fan of the classics. I would like to push myself a little bit more to read more difficult books, but also, in my opinion, just because something is a classic doesn't mean that it's a super great book, and it doesn't mean that you should have to read it. This was another one that, even though I don't think this is considered a classic or anything, I picked this up at the thrift store, and I just don't really want to read it because I have a strong feeling that it would be very depressing, and it is a thick read for sure. And I like historical fiction. A lot of historical fiction is depressing, but there's kind of a line, and I feel like I can get that vibe for whether I want to read the book. Yeah, this one is set like in the midst of the Civil War, plantation, all of that. I might pick this up at another point, but I'd probably get it from the library. But this was an Oprah's book club pick, so do let me know if you really like this book and if I should read it at some point. This was another one of my sisters that I actually did read. I had been wanting to read this book, The Bell Jar, for quite a long time. I'm sure you've heard of it, Sylvia Plath. She is a very famous author, and this book is pretty much based on her own life and her struggles with mental illness. Okay, I think these are the last of the ones that are from my TBR shelf. This is a random one that I picked up at the thrift store years ago, and I've just never reached for it. It is set in 1944. I probably would like it if I got into it, but I just never ever want to read it. So for that reason, it is time for it to go. And then these two I picked up from Book Outlet. They're both romances, and I just have 100% determined that I am not a romance girly. I don't mind the romantasy, I don't mind romance in a story, but when that is the primary genre, I just don't really like it that much. I have heard good things about both of these books. This is Honey and Spice. It was a Reese's book club pick. So this has good reviews. If you do like romance, definitely check this out. And then this is the first book in the Bridgerton series. That was so difficult to say. Again, I just don't really want to read it, so I'm not going to keep it and force myself to. Next up are a few Christmas books that I read last year that honestly I would recommend. I enjoyed reading all of these, but again, this is the last time I'm going to say this, I promise. I just didn't like them enough to want to keep them. This might be one of my favorite covers of all time, and I think all of the covers from this author kind of have this vibe. This is Donna Ashcroft's Christmas in the Scottish Highlands. I would for sure read more from this author, but I want to be better in the future about if I want to read a book like this where I'm quite confident that I'll enjoy it, but I know I probably won't want to keep it. I am going to use my library card this year. This one was very surprising to me, extremely cute. This is The Holiday Swap. I've seen this on a lot of like bookstores tables, so I think a lot of people still are getting this year. But in case you haven't seen it, this is a very cute story. I did get this on Book Outlet last year, and it probably is still there. It says, feels like Great British Bake Off meets Gilmore Girls, and I would actually say that's true. A lot of books now are saying like, ooh, Gilmore Girls vibes. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. Another one that was pretty surprising to me that I would absolutely recommend is 8 Perfect Hours by Leah Lewis. I actually have no idea where I got this. I might have got this actually like in a book mystery box, or I got it from a thrift store. This is Harlan Coben's Home. Not bad, but I'm not the biggest Harlan Coben fan, so I probably will not pick up any more from him. House of Gucci. It was an interesting read. I don't think I ever actually got all the way through it, but it is a pretty good nonfiction account of the Gucci family. Definitely learned a lot. This is If I Disappear, cute YA thriller. It just didn't stand out to me too much. The Lake, another YA thriller that was just kind of average. Starling House from Book of the Month. I so wanted to love this book, and it was fine. I don't regret reading it by any means, but not gonna hang on to it. I don't know, have you guys ever tried to take Book of the Month books like this where it's like on the cover, it's not like it's a sticker or something? Does Half Price Books buy Book of the Month books? Because I definitely think they would purchase this since that's a pretty new book and it was pretty popular, but maybe they don't like the Book of the Month ones, I don't know. Okay, this is a trilogy that I just bought them all on Book Outlet for pretty cheap. I only read the first one. I didn't really like it very much at all. This is the Tithe series, I think is just what the series is called, and it's the name of the first book. It's by Holly Black, and I know a lot of people really like Holly Black, so I would like to try to read something else by her, but I wasn't really impressed by that first book, so I'm just not gonna make myself read the other two. Lockdown on London Lane. This was a COVID book where like literally they were talking about COVID, not something based on COVID, and I just felt like it was a little bit too soon. It came out like right at the end of the pandemic, and there were some cute romance moments in it, but yeah, if you don't want to be reminded of that, I wouldn't recommend that book. This was an adorable one. I think I will read more from this author actually because she does write romance books, but I believe they're all pretty PG-13. And fun fact, this author, Carrie Winfrey, is from Columbus, Ohio, which is where I live. So in this book, and maybe in other ones that she writes, she does have a lot of references to Columbus, street streets and restaurants and things like that, so it was pretty fun for me to read. The one person works in a vintage toy shop and the guy is like a kids television host. So very adorable, very wholesome. Her most popular one was Waiting for Tom Hanks, and I definitely do want to read that, but I'll probably just get it from the library. In 5 years, I know a lot of people like it. I thought it was just okay, definitely not enough for me to keep. Emily Henry's Book Lovers. I did enjoy reading this. I think Emily Henry is one of the very few romance authors that I will pick up. And I do have people we meet on vacation, and I absolutely will read that, but probably not till the summertime. This is The Fifth Wave. I just got this from a thrift store, which is why it's kind of like banged up, I guess. And this was a surprising read. I thought this was really, really good. I never saw the movie, but I think the movie didn't do quite well, and I think because of that, I just assumed the books weren't that great. But I thought that this was a very clever book, a very good take on like dystopian world. I do want to read the other books in the series, so I think I'm just gonna try to find like a pack of all the books. I think they've been out for a while, so I'm sure I can find them pretty cheap. That way I can get a copy that's not so banged up, and then I'll get the other ones in the series too. The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I thought about keeping this one, but this wasn't like a top favorite thriller by any means for me, so I am just going to declutter it. Grady Hendrix, How to Sell a Haunted House. This was a disturbing read for me. If you don't like puppets and things like that, I would not recommend reading this book, although he is a really excellent writer, and I do have at least one more book by him on my TBR shelf that I'm hoping I will like much more. I just did not like the puppet aspect in this story. I absolutely love this cover. It was a decent YA thriller read. It was set like in the bayou, which was kind of cool. I feel like I never really read a book that was in that setting. I might actually look out for more from this author, Ginny Myers Sane, but ultimately I just didn't love it enough to keep. This one I actually might listen to. This is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This is actually another one that my sister gave me. And surprisingly, because I was a psych and counseling major, I did never read the book. I watched the movie, but I think what I'd like to do in the new year with classics is to listen to them. I feel like I will get more out of classic books by listening to them, just with the different emphasis that the narrators use. I think sometimes it's easier to get through like more dense books. Not that that one is an overly complicated story by any means, but I just feel like in general classics might work better for me narrated. Brenda Novak's The Bookstore on the Beach. Very cute beach read. I would absolutely read more from this author. This is The Jane Austen Society. Very adorable, but not like a top book for me. Bubble Bubble, Toil and Cuddle. I wasn't super impressed by this one. It definitely felt like a Harry Potter side quest, but I felt like it felt like that too much. It seemed a bit too much like copying to me, so this is unfortunately not one that I would really recommend. Bright Young Women. This one was one of my most anticipated reads of the fall season, and it just wasn't what I expected. I thought this was going to be like a thriller based on Ted Bundy or based on a serial killer. And it was like half nonfiction about Ted Bundy and half like made up characters, and I just didn't love it as much as I hoped I would. This is The Dead Romantics. I know a lot of people really like this one, and it was well written. It was pretty depressing though, which I guess maybe you could expect that by like the cover, but it dealt a lot with like family grief and things like that. Hotel Magnifique, pretty cute. This is like Night Circus vibes. I just read this last month, but when I was going through everything, I just didn't think that I would ever want to pick this up again. Ravenfall, very similar. Again, just read this in November. Not a bad story, but I just know I'm never going to read it again. Lightlark, another November read. I really would not recommend this. It is a romantasy, and honestly, there are so many romantasy books that are a lot better than this. All right, getting near the end. This is Ian McEwan's On Chesil Beach, not sure how to say that. Ian McEwan's Atonement is one of my favorite books of all time, so I have started reading some of his other ones, and unfortunately, Atonement might be like a one-hit wonder for the author for me. This is one of my favorite covers of all time. It is so cute. A Walk to Remember by Nicholas Sparks. It's a great story. I prefer the movie, I would say, over the book. Spanish Love Deception. This is one to me. I don't quite get the hype. I didn't really like the book. I didn't think it was written that well. I thought the story was very cliche. So don't really trust my romance opinion since it is my least favorite genre, but this was one I just didn't really like very much. Emma by Jane Austen. Love this story, but I think I have 3 other copies that are a lot nicer than this one, so there's just really no reason for me to have it. Sandra Brown's Lethal. I think I might have got this in a book mystery box, or I got it at the thrift store or something, and it was fine, but I feel like to me, Sandra Brown is kind of like Harlan Coben. I don't mind the stories, but I much prefer like a psychological thriller than a detective novel, and I know for sure that I would never want to read this again. Here is the Atlas 6. This is one that I struggled through a bit at some point, either this year or last year, and it wasn't bad. I really actually did like the writing, but I don't think I'm gonna read the second one, and I don't feel like holding on to the first one. TJ Klune's Under the Whispering Door. This is a cute story, but I much preferred The House in the Cerulean Sea, so I'm keeping that but getting rid of this one. And sorry for the abrupt ending. I thought I had one more, but that was it. Those were all of the 46 books that I am getting rid of at the end of this year. I also am going to finally get rid of my textbooks. I have like a whole row of a bookshelf just of all my different psychology and counseling textbooks that for some reason I've just held on to, but I know I'm not gonna really be looking into those anymore. So I am gonna get rid of those too, but most of those will probably just end up either in the trash because I wrote all over them or donated. But do let me know, are you doing a big book declutter at the end of this year, or are you more of a library person so you don't even have too many books? Maybe I'll do a whole bookshelf tour if you guys are interested. I have no idea how many books I have at this point, but I do have quite a lot, and it's nice to know now that all of the books, at least on my red shelf, I do really enjoy. And if you like this video, please make sure to give me a big thumbs up and subscribe. It really does help my channel out a lot. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!